When I was at CERN in February, in my induction, the Large Hadron Collider was still operating. So I was very interested in collecting sounds from all the machines that are feeding particles into it. Because when the collider is working, you're not allowed to go into that tunnel because it's radioactive. And so I made all these recordings, which now is kind of my source material and musical language that I want to use to excite the now dormant collider. But my sort of starting point is recordings I made of the proton source, and there was another particle source, and also this power supply. And you may have heard this last night. So that, to me, is like the heartbeat of CERN. Now those particle sources are sleeping, I guess, until they wake up again in a couple of years. But on the train ride to Paris after my induction, I had all these recordings, and I did make a 24-channel mix on the train, and I also had shot a video, of water falling in a cooling tower, and this video was kind of like my first reaction to being there. And I chose this image because it looked like accelerating particles, and this was just a first sound study and sound mix from that first visit. Because of being at Ars Electronica and having an invitation to create a sound sculpture on this very interesting wooden tower on the roof of a parking garage adjacent to the OK Center, I decided to try to make mixes that might simulate the sort of artistic thinking I have with some of the kind of recordings I made. And my ultimate goal is to excite this Large Hadron Collider, which is this 27 kilometer long circular tunnel underground, and it's the world's largest man-made machine. So it's now kind of being upgraded, and it's not really doing anything. And so the idea of taking the source recordings I made in February as a language to use to excite this is very interesting to me. And so ideally, you might go over to the OK Center and go up this very tall wooden tower, and these sounds are moving up and down. But this is a sort of simulation mix study of what this could be. Ariane, remind me the name of the scientist, Ralph, who gave me these extraordinary...
Yeah, Ralph Steinhagen, who actually runs the beam. He actually runs the beam around the Large Hadron Collider and does it through sound.
Right, and maybe Subud, you can clarify what he's doing?
So Ralph is one of these people that's in charge of the stability of the beam. The beam is a gigantic juggling act. They're throwing bunches of protons around almost the speed of light in opposite directions and giving them kicks at these very precise moments. And this can spiral out of control at any moment. And Ralph is sort of the person that is in charge of balancing all of this stuff as you go along. And those are the audio recordings. Some of the thing that you sampled.
So he gave me some recordings, and I made a mix with one of the recordings that I really liked, following the same rules as the first mix, where the source recording is going through a series of cascading delays. And if you hear it out of 8 or 16 speakers, it's spatially pretty interesting. And you may hear this out of 8 speakers at the Lentos Museum tomorrow. But this is a stereo mix of that. Can you make that a bit louder? One of my favorite locations that I recorded in February were the actual electrical power sources of CERN. If you imagine, there's tremendous electrical energy needed to operate these machines. And I'm one of these people who finds AC hum really quite interesting, because you have a lot of harmonics in it. So I took some recordings I made of the alternating current hum in these big transformers, and also applied the same compositional principles to that I did with the other ones. I may do this at Lentos. I was thinking of putting this on that vertical wooden tower, but I thought it might scare somebody trying to walk up the tower hearing this. But in my last days in July at CERN, I think in my 4th visit down into the collider, we tried an incredible experiment. Previously, I had put a physical exciter on the collider to see if it could excite it. And when I was down there, when I would go down there, I would have accelerometers on this pipe to listen to how it was reacting to sound sources I was using. And at one point on the 3rd test, I just started shouting in the tunnel just to use my voice as a sort of exciting source. And I found that acoustically exciting this structure was actually really interesting. So on the last test, we brought this very large, very good quality public address speaker, concert speaker down into the tunnel, and I would blast impulses of sound, and the accelerometers would pick up a 12.2 second delay from these impulses, and Subodh and some other people were scratching their heads trying to figure out why this happened. And so where I'm going with this is to kind of develop that into a larger project with multiple speakers in the tunnel, and really kind of like a live concert piece in the tunnel, perhaps.
Yeah, so basically the Large Hadron Collider is going to become the world's largest musical instrument. Yeah. And it was incredible. It was an incredible moment playing the sounds of the Large Hadron Collider back to itself, if you can imagine it, when it was working and then when it was dormant, and then just playing it back to itself with that 12.2 second delay, where for one moment we all went, oh, it's gone around the ring and come back, because it would take that time. But actually, of course, it wasn't that. But it was kind of one of those epic moments. And we also played it the sound of the sea as well. And somebody said to me, oh, Well, that was quite poetic because basically bits of the Large Hadron Collider were actually brought by C.
Right.
So isn't that kind of beautiful that that happened? So
Well, I mean, I think one of the other fantasies I had when you think about putting loudspeakers, around this 27-kilometer long tunnel and using sounds acoustically to excite it. When I think that the World Wide Web was invented at CERN, is that correct?
yes.
And maybe this project, if it comes to life, will get sent out in some different places in the world. Maybe I might bring some sound sources from some other places to kind of excite the collider.
So as you can see, it's a work in progress. Bill's been with us for a month, coming back for a month, and then coming to Future Lab, the transdisciplinary team, to develop the project even further, which is part of the collaboration, the wonderful collaboration we have with Ars Electronica. So it is a kind of watch this space moment and listen out next. And I think now over to Joanna and to the next wonderful residency. Yeah.